think the way that you experience Chattanooga is something that we experience here in Nashville, and I'm grateful every day for that. The relationship that we have, the interfaith relationship that we have with our communities. In our past, as the congregation, the temple is 165 years old. We've not always been in the same location, but we have history here, and so our community is blessed with being woven into the fabric, for the most part, of Nashville's community. Doesn't mean that we have been safe from targeted violence and hatred, because that has happened. The JCC, the Jewish Community Center, in 1958 was bombed. It was dynamited by a white nationalist, a Confederate Union person, and he had called the rabbi of the congregation then and said, "I just bombed the JCC, the temple's next." And so thank God there were no casualties at that point, and the temple didn't happen to be bombed. They were able to intercede, but there have been other attempts, including an attempt on the rabbi's life, a different rabbi, a later one. But our response to that incident, because we were targeted because of our engagement with civil rights and our work to desegregate the South, and Nashville in particular, and we were told that that's why the JCC and the temple were targeted. Our response was, well, I'll say the community's response at first was to stand with us. They had, from the mayor to other clergy and the rest of the community, were to stand with us. They published a statement, it was widely circulated, and the Nashville Jewish community really felt supported at that point. Internally, we kept fighting. We kept pushing forward for civil justice and civil rights. And we even have a mosaic that was commissioned in 1959, right after this event, that talks about all of the races being equal stature and equal height. You can come by the temple and see it. It's a beautiful piece, right in the middle of the civil rights movement, to have these words, "Have we not all one Father? Why is it that brother fights against brother?" from the book of Malachi. And so we have that. We use that act of hate to really continue to empower our work for justice and for peace and for love. So since then, we have had some incidences that have come up, and our congregation works very hard to keep us safe inside of our walls. We know that the Jewish community are targets outside of Nashville community, as we saw just recently in Charlottesville and elsewhere, and even during times of our greatest holy period, our high holidays, we have pretty significant security. Walking around Nashville, you can walk into almost any church. Doors are open, you can walk around, you can take a tour by yourself. It doesn't happen in the Jewish community. We have a very different reality. You have to be buzzed in, we have ample security, and that is constantly upgraded and checked for vulnerabilities. So we are appreciative of our law enforcement, for sure, and we're Homeland Security who help us identify those vulnerabilities. And we continue to improve that every day. But it is a sad thing when you can't have an open congregation. When people who want to come in and pray have to do it when we know that we can escort someone into the building. So there are certain things that we have to face because we know that we are targets. The targeting that we feel, though, it's interesting, doesn't come from, we don't ever feel from our Muslim brothers and sisters in the community. That's not where we sort of face our fears. It happens to be the same perpetrators from 1958 to today, where we kind of look and see where we find our most significant threats. And so we understand that to be our reality. When the Jewish community centers across the country and in Nashville were receiving bomb threats on the telephone, my children who go to Akiva school, the Jewish day school, had to be evacuated multiple times. As a parent, that is frightening. I remember as a young person being in congregations on the high holidays and someone would call in a bomb threat and everyone would have to lead prayer because you don't want to be sorry if it was an actual bomb. But to have children have to leave a building and try to keep their calm and their cool, it is unnerving. And you think that you're safe and you're not sure what exactly is going to be. And you send them to school the next day, and then they get another call, and they have to evacuate again. It is frightening. But I will tell you that the people who called us first We're from the Islamic Center of Nashville, from Conexión Americas, and from Casa Asafan. So our multicultural, interfaith community stood with us. And when we realized that the threats were ultimately not significant and not credible in this country, because they came from outside, we realized that we worked together for that purpose, that we stood together. And when West End Synagogue had a bullet in the side of their building, which happened to be, I'm not making the connection, but it happened to be the same weekend of the NRA conference, we don't know how it got there or when it actually got there, but that was when it was found. And we immediately witnessed a vigil from across cultures. Churches and mosques and synagogues and people from our community came together to say, this is not Nashville, this is not okay, this is not who we are. And we know that when there is a threat in the country, it doesn't matter if it's close to Nashville or not, we have the Bellmead Police Department and Metro check on us. They patrol our parking lot, they just come and say hi, they make themselves known so our kids know them, our preschool students know them. And when something happens in the Jewish community, when we have to go on the list or comes to us, our students aren't afraid. They're not, there's not a stranger because we know these police officers. So I think having those relationships are incredibly important. And we actually honor the Bellmead police who are right next door to us. We honor them in our services often because they come, they sit in our services with us. And so we're grateful for that relationship, and I agree you have to build that first. You can't do it when there is an actual crisis. You have to pay attention to it. You have to pay attention to it earlier so that you can rely on it when you need to. And every one of us that is a member of a community of faith, you know how important it is to be reached out to, not just from within your community, but from your larger national community. And so we are grateful for all of those who reached out to us, and we know that we will do the same for you as well.
Within Specialized Investigations Division, I work in the security threat section. That encompasses the counterterrorism unit and dignitary protection. So under those umbrellas, in addition to domestic and international terrorism that we work with the FBI in investigating, we also investigate threats against government buildings, threats against elected officials, threats against places of worship, things like that may be in a larger scale than just an individual act. So another thing we do is one of our detectives receives all the incident reports related to potential hate crimes. He reviews those reports to see if it meets federal guidelines to be classified as a hate crime. But our main job in my unit is kind of a global overview of what's happening in the nation. And as we look at that, is that something that we might see locally in Nashville? Is that something that we need to be on the lookout for, to let the community know about, to let individual places of worship know, to be looking for particular things? And as the Rabbi and others have spoken about, is those open lines of communication. We can't stress enough how important that is. To know the person on the other end of the phone that you're speaking to or emailing or meeting with before a critical incident happens. So you know your concerns are getting through to those people and they know you. And by building communication, you know what is it the police department needs from the community, and in turn, what does the community need from the police department? You become more in tune with each other's needs. As you build relationships, you get to know one another, and we go to community meetings with various organizations. We partner with precinct community coordinators, so that at the precinct level, the zone officers know who the leaders are in those particular organizations. The organization knows they can call the precinct community coordinator. They know them by name, hopefully. They can express any concerns that they have. If there's a major event upcoming, they can let them know that. Maybe there's going to be increased attendance, increased traffic, things like that that may seem small, but it just built on those lines of communication, so when something does happen of a serious nature, you already have that familiarity with each other, and hopefully that plays to your advantage, and you can, address the issue, whatever it may be, and still have that confidence to know that your concerns are being heard and being responded to.